Usually my trips are lonesome adventures. I pick out remote areas of the UK and I visit off-season to avoid the crowds. Aside from hectic first days, I don't rush these journeys, and I immerse myself in taking photos and documenting the process in video diaries. I also enjoy the deconstructive and reconstructive nature of my visits to Scotland. Being alone in rugged places with nothing for company but my camera and my thoughts acts as a reset button for me, and I return to everyday life feeling tired but refreshed. This series is a little different. As usual, I'm bringing you along for a photography-videography trip, but this time I'm not alone. I get to share this expedition with a childhood friend. We are also travelling quite a bit further than Scotland, and in the other direction. I didn't document the majority of the journey. Let's just call it grueling. Long-haul air travel is rarely comfortable, but we had some characters on our flight. After a 14-hour plane ride, where I was compelled to enjoy more conversation with my neighbour than I managed with my family in a year, we had a 24-hour stopover in Buenos Aires before we took a 3-hour onward flight and arrived, exhausted, at our destination. Welcome to Ushuaia, the most southerly city in the world and the last outpost before the Antarctic. I'm here with friend and fellow filmmaker Burnham Arledge, and later today we will board a ship that will take us down the Beagle Channel, across the Drake's Passage and on to Antarctica. Burnham works for a travel company called Swoop, who sell Antarctic cruises, and over our time on Antarctica we'll be making some commercial films for Swoop and for the cruise company who are taking us, Polar Latitudes. Although this is a work trip, there will be plenty of time to take photos, and I do plan to make a bit of a vlog as I go along, but I'm a little bit wary about whether I can do this. I'm not sure about doing the vlogging with so many people around. Usually I'm on my own, and so I can do multiple takes, and the whole trip is focused around that, and that's clearly not going to be the case on a group tour trip like this. So I'm a bit wary about whether I've set myself a mission that I will detract from the experience of actually being in Antarctica and getting that opportunity. I'm also a little bit wary about whether the type of photography that I'm going to be doing on this trip will be engaging for the viewer, because it's not the measured, slow build-up, tripod-based photography that I usually do on these trips. Instead, it will be shooting a lot from the zodiac and taking pictures of wildlife, and although that's interesting, it's not the same style that I usually do. One question that I would like to prove to myself on this trip is whether it is worth taking a tripod to Antarctica. So it might be that I don't make a series out of these videos at all, and I just make one video with that as the key question. We'd arrived at this most southerly part of Argentina with 2 nights to spare. However, with the jet lag, I didn't feel much up to getting out with the camera early in the morning. We did get to hike the mountains of Tierra del Fuego, but mostly we spent our time recovering from our journey and enjoying the amazing hotel facilities. We also filmed in the town of Ushuaia. And on the last day, before we were to board our ship that afternoon, I had some free time and the energy to explore a composition I'd spied in the taxi from the airport. today's shoot was not a great one. It's always a little bit like this at the beginning of a trip because there's so much anticipation building up, but it's been even more pronounced during this one. We've had 3 days in Ushuaia where we've been twiddling our thumbs in a really nice hotel, but you're just waiting to board the ship and go out to Antarctica. We went to Laguna Esmeralda yesterday, and it was a similar story. It was even worse there because it was so crowded. It was impossible to take photos or to film. Really, got a little bit of footage going up there and a few photos that might work, but my mind really wasn't in it. When I scouted Ushuaia on the internet before I came, I wondered why there were no good landscape photos of this area, and I think I know why now. It's a jumping off point, a transitional place, not a destination, and it deserves more really. Lake Esmeralda yesterday was absolutely beautiful, but this place is always going to play second fiddle to the Antarctic or to its close neighbour Patagonia. But Tierra del Fuego looks absolutely fantastic, and if I had a little bit more time, I would love to explore this area more. I hold by this statement. Ushuaia deserves more attention than it gets. Tourists who live closer may get to uncover all the charm of Tierra del Fuego, but when you are travelling a long way, it is understandable that people get their fill of rivers with milky green waters and autumn tree colour from Tourist Alpine, or else have their eyes firmly locked on the prize of Antarctica. My impressions of Ushuaia's splendour were further reinforced on returning there after a week at sea. Just disembarked from the Polar Latitudes ship, Sea Venture, and it's super surreal. Everything suddenly has scale because the landscape in Antarctica is completely white. You don't have any sense of scale or know how tall things are. Here, suddenly the mountains seem absolutely huge. These ones behind me seem like they tower above me, and they're no higher. Well, it's hard to say. They're no higher, I don't think, than the mountains on Antarctica. As we boarded the ship, my mild dissatisfaction at not having done enough landscape photography dissolved in the excitement of the adventure to come, and we spent the afternoon settling in and familiarising ourselves with home for the next week. In early evening, Sea Venture left port and Argentina behind, and we began our journey along the Beagle Channel towards Cape Horn and the Drake Passage. I knew while shooting it, but this is not a keeper. I liked the ridge of mountains on the horizon, but the atmosphere I had seen during our taxi ride from the airport was what had lured me here. Of course, a snowstorm slightly obscuring the mountains would lift this image, but what really lets this down is the lack of foreground interest. Given a little more time to explore, and perhaps a pair of waders, I'm sure I could have improved upon this effort, but as it is, this one requires a lot of work to make it in any way pleasing. The hike to Laguna Esmeralda was beautiful, and it was great to enjoy the experience with a friend. Even though Burnham and I both live in Bristol, setting aside quality time like this is so hard in the rush and efficiency of home life. Nonetheless, filming and taking photos during this day was hard. Partly it was the crowds, partly it was the jet lag, but mostly it was the lethargy that I always feel at the beginning of trips. Saying all of that, I am still pleased with the pictures that I took. Though this image is slightly imbalanced, with too much visual weight pulling your eye towards the left portion of the frame, I still like it. Perhaps the gnarled, clawing gestures of the branches in the lower right is enough to even things out and allow your gaze to move through the scene diagonally towards the stormy light on the interesting shaped peaks. Given how crowded it was on this hike, I just count myself lucky that no one was wandering along the beach and I didn't need to do any cloning. I am pleased with this. When I started composing, the sky had been blue, but as I framed up, some dark clouds moved through and created some impressive mood. I shot this as a square, and the tranquil feeling of an even framing works. My aim was for the diagonal line of the trunk to balance the mountain ridge in the opposite corner. On location, I thought that this symmetry was improved as direct light fell over the trees on the far shore. But looking at the computer, I think perhaps with this extra drama, a panoramic crop is more appropriate. I could argue it either way, but let me know in the comments which you prefer. My apprehensions about this trip were misplaced. As I expected, there was a lot of shooting from the small ribs, but I underestimated just how magical close encounters with wildlife would be. I also overestimated how much I would want to photograph seals, whales and penguins. I did get some good shots, but some of the most magical moments of the trip came from being absorbed in the sounds of Antarctica. The creaking of ice, the chatter of a chinstrap colony, and the ancient groaning of humpbacks are memories that stick in my heart and in my mind. I did manage some landscape photography, but you'll have to tune in to the next episode to see how that went. Thank you Swoop Adventures and Polar Latitudes for making this trip happen. If you are new to this channel, I'm not a regular poster. I take photo and video trips a few times a year and release the behind the scenes video diary as a weekly series after I have edited, usually a few months later.